The buzz of the restaurant rang in my ear as I leaned in closer, trying to hear my sister's words. It was my first time back in Guangzhou, China, having lived 2 years in Canada. We were at our all-time favorite fried noodle restaurant with my dad and mom. While chatting in English with my sister, the server comes in and serves us 3 bowls. But before I could reach out and grab my chopsticks, the server paused, tilts her head, and asks my dad in Chinese, "Does your daughter need forks?" My world seemed to stop for a moment. I was confused because I understood what she meant. "You're not from here." I thought to myself, if I say no, would she think I'm too sensitive? If I say yes, would that mean I was admitting my identity to her? There was a long, awkward pause. Before I could reply, my dad said, "No thanks for me." We tend to take our identity for granted. For many of us, if we were raised and born in one country, our identity is clear to us. But for some of us, if we were born but raised in another country, this comes to a bigger question. Who am I? I remember when I was little, I would watch these TV characters. They were eating pancakes and maple syrup. Then I stared down at my own plate, plain dough sticks and rice congee, the classic Chinese breakfast. I would beg my grandmother to make some pancakes, but she would always complain that it was a foreign concept and she didn't know how. I would watch these TV characters build these huge snowmans. Then I stared out my window. Guangzhou was a boiling pot in a never-ending summer. These gave me a sense of unbelonging. The sense of unbelonging can come from different reasons, not necessarily from immigration. This could be from your work, from your school, from your culture, from your religion, or anything in general. At some point, we all felt that feeling, that unbelonging. Let me tell you my story. I was born in Canada, but when I was 2 months old, I moved to China. For 7 years, I had received a permanent stay pass as a Canadian in China. My mom always told me, "Don't get too close to your friends." But I never really understood the meaning. Until I turned 7, I understood. You're not from here, so don't get comfortable. I was anxious, scared, mixed with a little bit of excitement because I was finally going to move back where I was supposed to be, where I belong. I thought to myself, I was finally going to set my roots and make lots and lots of friends. And most importantly, I finally going to get to eat that pancakes and maple syrup and build those huge snowmans. Yet, when the day arrived, that unbelonging struck me. I had to start English from zero, and everyone looked at me weirdly for pronouncing words such as snacks as snakes, or complained how I could skip every spelling bee test. Everyone saw me as a Chinese, an imposter, an outsider, when I was a Canadian like them too. So going back to China, I was supposed to feel belonged to, yet the moment the server asked me if I needed forks, it crashed my world. It seemed to me that everyone saw me as a foreigner in China when I grew up there. I still remember the days of staring at myself in the mirror, trying to see if my Asian features were distinct enough, or I would hover myself under a blanket, trying to catch my accent in an echo, or I would even try speaking in broken English, all so that others didn't see me as an outsider. But it didn't feel right. It didn't feel like me. I thought back to the pancakes and maple syrup versus doughsticks and rice congee. Of course, this was a bigger question than which one I liked better. This was a question of my identity. Am I Canadian or am I Chinese? I struggle with the idea of being rejected by both countries when I belong to both of them. I kept getting the same message of unbelonging again and again. I had realized that my identity had become an obstacle in understanding myself. People say learning is observe, imitate, practice, and master. But my problem wasn't learning. My problem was choosing my identity. So I revised the words. It became as recognize, understand, decide, and explore. The more I thought, the more I recognized myself, whether that was my habits or appearance. I recalled the sweet and savory breakfast of my childhood. It represented who I am. I recognized that I have adopted habits from both culture. From Canada, it was eating poutine, camping, and attending Air Cadets. From China, it was drinking hot water with every meal and receiving red package during the New Year. I dig through memories of celebrating Canadian Thanksgiving and waking up early in the dark winter morning to make dumplings on winter solstice. I began to understand that I wasn't simply one culture. I am of both cultures, and I get to decide what that means. Out of coincidence, when I came back to Canada at the old spaghetti factory, the server asked me, "Do you need chopsticks?" Instead of questioning my whole identity, I simply said, "No thanks," because I had already recognized where I belong, understood the elements of culture behind it, decided what that meant and took action and explored further on my identity. Identity crisis is a growing problem that many of the people around us face. This is one of the most unspoken conflicts. When I was 7, I was essentially split from two identities. I was constantly scared of walking in and getting a certain utensil. I was constantly scared of being seen as an outsider to people. But now, it didn't matter because I am confident as I already recognized, understood, decided, and explored. And it is because of that, I now appreciate my two backgrounds as a Canadian and Chinese. I now appreciate my two breakfast options of pancakes and maple syrup and doughsticks and rice congee. I now appreciate my two utensil choices of forks or chopsticks. As of 2020, there are more than 272 million people who are immigrants worldwide. I am just one of those millions of people who experience immigration, who experience unbelonging. We have been conditioned to think for so long that there is a specific way we're supposed to speak, act, look like when we are our authentic self the whole time. We already have everything we need inside of us. It is not somewhere defined by others. It is in here, right now, in this moment within you. Identity cannot be found or fabricated, but it emerges when you unplug the words of others and decide for yourself. You choose who you want to be. Understand that choosing your identity can be a long, tiring journey. Identity is partly your heritage, partly your upbringings, but mainly the mindset you choose to think in. So next time you ponder on the question, who am I? Recognize what impacts you. Understand the elements behind it. Decide for yourself and take action and explore more on what that means. Because where identity is concerned, you are the ultimate decider.